What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Hoops Betting Hour, presented by Pickswise and powered by FanDuel. I am your host, the big man on campus. We are here on a Friday, ending another work week for most. We got basketball, though, all weekend coming up. We're into June now, and we're getting closer and closer to the NBA Finals. Second round getting going this weekend. We've still got some things to iron out tonight in the Western Conference. We'll get to that in just a second. We'll also recap what we saw last night. As always, we're here every day, noon Eastern, breaking the games down all the way through the NBA Finals. Let's bring in our Friday guest today. You know him if you've been on Twitter, if you've been around this Borgata for a while, you know who he is. It's Ian Cameron. Ian, what's happening? Good to see you. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, it's good to see you, Jeff. The first round is going to be just about over. I've only got one series left. It's Clippers-Mavericks, Game 6 tonight. And then we got the second round starting this weekend. There's series prices out for the second round. We'll get to those later in the show. But, yeah, I like that the NBA's not messing around. You know, we're into June now. Get these playoffs moving forward. All right, the season started late. Get them moving. No hiatus, no rest, no waiting around. Get right into the second round. I like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited, for the next couple of rounds here. Obviously, it's nice having the season a little bit later this year. Look, I'm for one in belief that this should be how it is always. The season should start, into December. That way, because for years, Ian, my whole life, really, our whole life, it's always been once June gets here, the finals are over, and all you got until September 1 is baseball. And look, no knock on baseball. Baseball is great, but it's really nice to have it all the way through July now. That way, August 1st comes, you start, hanging with baseball, you bet baseball a little bit, but you're also getting ready for that month before the storm, the calm before the storm. You got football starting. You can look at your magazines. You can start reading stuff. You can have your fantasy drafts. It's a perfect setup. This is one thing about the pandemic from a sports angle that must continue. Okay, I don't want to see the NCAA tournament on Mondays anymore, but I want to see the NBA season starting like around Christmas. I think it's ideal, man. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it feels like football season is even closer to getting here than normal because of the fact the NHL and NBA is not normally on June 4th, just getting into the second round. Usually we're talking NBA finals right now. Usually we're talking Stanley Cup finals. Of those two sports, they're in the second round. They've still got tons of playoffs left. And they're going to be going right into July. And when you think about it, when NHL and NBA are over, we're going to be in NFL training camps essentially at that time.
It's awesome.
And preseason is going to be a couple of weeks away. I mean, there's just no downtime from the end of basketball, hockey, the winter sports to football. And preseason will be here in 2 months. The college football will be here in September. And it just means that, hey, lack of a summer, lack of holidays. But, hey, I'm not planning on going anywhere this summer anyway, so bring it on.
Agreed. Got a good show today. We'll go through the just one game on the card today, which this is what happens towards the end of the rounds. You may have a day where there's just one game. But we've got, obviously, we'll recap. We're also going to look forward in a future standpoint to the other series that are going to get going this weekend. Kind of how this whole thing shakes out and what we see. Is there any value right now with a team in the futures market to win the entire thing? We'll get into that in a little bit. Let's recap what we saw last night. As always, thanks for watching. I will tell you this about this show. We get a lot of people on the back end that watch. So if you're watching live, welcome in. Check out the chat box if you want to interact with us. But if you're checking out the show on replay, thank you for watching. Make sure you hit the like button. If you're new around here, make sure you subscribe as we continue to build the base here at Pickswise. All right, let's get into the games. Last night, had no early games. It was 8 o'clock, basically. That's when these games started. And the Denver Nuggets were looking to close it out. This is a series I had all wrong, I got to tell you. And I will tell you this. This goes to show you, Ian Cameron, what a coach can do for you in the NBA, right? You look at one side, Michael Malone. He could make every excuse in the world. I don't have any defenders. I lost my best player outside of Jokic and Jamal Murray and my guard. I didn't have this. I didn't have that. Michael Porter can't defend. All this different stuff. Didn't matter. Terry Stotts has literally a team on paper that should win more than a series every year. But as usual, the Blazers collapse and don't get the job done. Just a gutless, and I mean gutless. This is one of the, look, the other night the Lakers scored 10 points in a quarter. You could put this fourth quarter for Portland up there as one of the worst performances in the history of a playoff game in the NBA. Just gutless, disgusting, hideous play by Portland. They get outscored 28-14. 14! And you know what, Ian? You know how many points they lost the game by? 11. They got outscored in the fourth quarter in a playoff game they had to have at home. Gutless. Absolutely gutless. Terry Stotts has not been fired yet, but I'd only imagine it's only a matter of time until it happens. It is absolutely deplorable that year after year, this group cannot get out of the first round. And I know, it's not all on Stotts. But you got to wonder, year to year, what the hell is going on with this team? Jokic continues to be terrific. He has a huge game last night. But shout out to Michael Porter. Shout out to Aaron Gordon. Shout out to Campazzo. And shout out to Monte Morris. What a game for him. Yes. 22 points, 9 assists in 33 minutes. He was the difference in this game. And the gutless Blazers go down. I don't know why I bet on these clowns. I should know every year it's the same old stuff. Shout out to Michael Malone. Shout out to the Nuggets.
Yeah, unbelievable performance by the Denver Nuggets. And Michael Malone adjusting, making things happen. Realizing how he could tweak his roster and tweak his lineup to fit without Jamal Murray and make it happen, make it, win games at playoff time, something another coach didn't do. And we'll get to him in a minute, talking about Frank Vogel. But nevertheless, you look at it from a Denver perspective, and Jokic was amazing. This guy is just so much fun to watch on a nightly basis. He looks like a cyclops on the basketball court, but he's got this deft, fleet footwork. He's got this incredible touch around the rim. He can step back at the three-point line and absolutely just take your heart out with a big three-point bomb. I mean, what can't Nikola Jokic do for the Denver Nuggets? He's been absolutely brilliant. He's going to win the MVP in my mind this season, hands down. And the supporting cast, Michael Porter, we clowned his defense a little bit, but his offense was brilliant. He hit some clutch shots for this team. What about the performance, of you mentioned it, Monte Morris? He was outstanding throughout the course of that series as well for the Denver Nuggets. And look, one team got some stops when they needed to, and the other didn't. And if you're the Portland Trail Blazers, that's what you need. All right, the fact that you've got this brilliant backcourt and you could score points with anybody in the NBA. Oh, Austin Rivers too. We got to shout out him. He was great for Denver in that series as well. But with your Portland, you've got this scintillating backcourt, one of the best in the NBA with McCollum and Lillard. You've got all this scoring up and down your lineup, and yet you don't have a above-average defender essentially on your basketball team. That's a problem. And they got to look to get some toughness. They got to look to get some glue guys. They got to look to get some guys that thrive on and excel on the defensive end of the basketball court. They haven't addressed that. And I think the other half of their struggles on defense, because we're not kidding anybody. Why have they been knocked out of their ass in the first round every year? Bad defense. They don't contest shots. They don't rotate well. They don't communicate well on the defensive end. It's just bad fundamental defense. Half of it is bad personnel. The other half of it's bad coaching, to your point about Terry Stotts. I think his time's up. At some point, you got to coach up these guys to, guard your man. You know what? Get back in transition. You know what? All these fundamentals of defensive basketball that you need to have to win in the playoffs, they were lacking. I think personnel's part of it. I think coaching's part of it. I don't care if you don't think you have any good defenders on your team. You're the coach. You're trying to coach them up. You've got to instruct them and instill confidence defensively. He hasn't done that either. So there's blame all around, Jeff, with the Blazers. Bad defensive personnel, bad coaching up of the defense by Stotts, and they deserve what they get.
But you brought in a Robert Covington who, has always been a good defender. But the problem is, as you said, there's really outside of him no one on this team that can defend. It's just hard to watch. Stotts is gone. He's not going to be back. Also, Nurkic. Has Nurkic turned out to be what you thought he would be? He's good, but he's not.
Yeah, that's not another good defender, in my opinion. Yeah, his defense went way down in this series.
And you miss out because you got, say what you want about Hassan Whiteside, but he's a pretty good defender. This team, they have to go back to the drawing board. I'm sure the Knicks are going to start calling about Damian Lillard. Teams are gonna. Is Damian Lillard Allen Iverson? Is that what he turns out to be? Where he just, he does all he can, but there's never enough, and he never wins a title. We'll see. I don't know if he'll remain with them that long, but just a really gutless performance by them. Shout out to the over in this series. I was on it every game, 5-1 in the over here. Listen. This is how I was on something last night with Donnie and Kevin Walsh. They do a show at Sports Grid, and one of the questions was, how do you bet the NBA? And I said, I just keep betting the same thing, because when you identify, now you think you and I talked about this. This was an over series, okay? Both offenses were efficient. Both defenses lacked a lot.
They lacked defense to the areas that the offenses on the other side could exploit. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. So
you could say the same about Memphis, Utah. Same thing.
Correct.
Just either team could get stops in that series, and if you're just banging your head against the wall, saying, "Oh, we're due for an under," and it just never happened in that series either.
Exactly. So salute to the Blazers. You're out of here. Denver moves on. They get Phoenix in the next round. The other game last night, another gutless performance. The LA Lakers. You continue to see it, Ian. And I know defense is getting better in the NBA. I thought this year it was better. I will never for the life of me understand how an NBA team cannot get to 20 in 12 minutes of basketball. It blows my mind. We saw it last night with the disgraceful, at times, LA Lakers. Listen, we talked about it yesterday, and I tried to tell Ski Prophet, but he was strong in his thinking. LeBron James, in my opinion, is done. I think he's moved on in his life. I thought when he went to LA, it was his last stand. Win one more title, and he's talking about going into the movies, and he's towards the end of his career, man. This team isn't good. They're not.
I think he checked out last night, to be honest with you. Yeah.
What was that?
I think he checked out a little bit last night, to be honest with you.
Of course
that's not a LeBron, rah-rah.
He checked out in the game before as well.
An elimination game, yep.
Yeah, he checked out as well in the game before. LeBron James is done. He's done with the NBA. He's playing out the string, man. How much time does he really have left? Anthony Davis, what a desperation move trying to play. Didn't work out. Played 5 minutes. He was a complete non-factor. How did this team win a title? Can you explain that to me? I don't know how they did it, but they did it. You thought this year, defensively, they looked great. You added Schroeder and Wesley Matthews and Marc Gasol, and you just thought, okay, you got those two big boys up front. You got a good group, a good core. At home, you come out and get blown out in the first quarter, 36-14. I've never seen that before with LeBron James. Maybe you have one more season from LeBron, maybe two. LeBron James is done. He's not going to win another title. That's that. Shout out to the Suns. There's a changing of the guard in the NBA, folks. You know what we're not going to see in the finals this year? I'm going to tell you two things. We're not going to see Stephen Curry, and we're not going to see LeBron James. Salud. Good. I want to see somebody different. The changing the guard is happening in the NBA.
Yeah, the Lakers, where do we start with them? LeBron obviously wasn't 100%, but he didn't have a good series. It's not all about the bum ankle. It's about he didn't have a good series. I didn't see that whole LeBron James, rise his team, put his Lakers squad on his shoulders. I didn't see that LeBron at all, at any point in this series. That tells you that Father Time's catching up, age is catching up, and I think there's a little bit of, I'm now looking toward the future. I'm looking toward interests outside of the game of basketball. And it speaks to, him getting involved in the movie business a little bit. You're right. I think there's a little bit of that to it. The Anthony Davis situation was critical in this series, and you knew the Lakers were in trouble the moment Anthony Davis got injured midway through the season. And I understand Anthony Davis, what he's trying to think about playing last night, because he's hearing it from everyone in the media, all the fans, Snoop Dogg basically clowning him, saying you got to play. Hearing Charles Barkley calling him street clothes on TNT. And, I think he took it personally, and he's like, these guys are all ripping me because I'm injured, and they think I'm soft. They think I'm a little soft Dairy Queen soft serve ice cream to melt here, and I've got to come out there and show them that, hey, I'm tough. I've got a bad injury here with this groin, but I'm going to play through it and prove everybody wrong. Well, it was foolish. You know what? Sometimes you just got to say, you know what, for the betterment of my health, for the betterment of my team, I can't be going out there to start that game last night, moving around the way I was. That was absolutely ridiculous, big man, that he was even in that game last night with the way he was moving around. He was clearly compromised physically. You know, at some point, if you're Anthony Davis, you got to just don't worry about what people are saying, okay? What you have to worry about is your health, and he had no business playing in that game. And sure enough, he doesn't even last 6 minutes, into the first quarter, and he's done for the rest of the night. And another thing too, if he's mad at what people are saying, don't be mad about whether you think they're going to get upset and on you for playing last night. The reason they're on you is for a different reason. It's one he should listen to. Maybe he's got to change his training habits and his training. I don't know what he does for training, but there's something to it, Jeff, that he gets injured this much. There has to be something to it. And he's got to look in the mirror and say, AD, you know what? Maybe I've got to train different. Maybe I've got to prepare in the off season and do things differently in that regard so that I can avoid these hamstring injuries, these ankle injuries, these groin injuries, these back injuries, these neck injuries, and every other body part known to man. If you want to get rid of all of these injuries, maybe you got to change the way you prepare yourself for an NBA season in terms of physical training. I don't know what he's doing. I'm not even going to begin to guess, but something has to change in that regard, because for a guy to be getting hurt this much, it's irregular. And I think it's something with his training that's got to change to avoid it.
Keep in mind, in Anthony Davis's career, came into the league, first year was 2012, 2013. Anthony Davis has only played in 2 seasons where he's had more than 70 games played. Okay, it's just not something he does very often. He gets injured way too much, always seemingly at the worst times. I'm not sure there's a more injury-prone guy in the league than Anthony, and it sucks because he wants to be out there, but and you also have to look at and say to yourself, you look at the Suns last night. Devin Booker has 47. I mean, how electric is he? He's terrific. He's great to watch. One of the better players in the NBA, doesn't get enough credit. But you look at Ayton has 8 points. Chris Paul has 8 points. Cameron Payne only had 7. I mean, they just kind of hung on the backs of Booker. He was terrific. This team is very good defensively. They will represent the West in the West. It's them and the Jazz to me. I'm very well. Actually, no, they'll play each other, won't they?
Yeah, it's funny, Jeff. I said I was worried a little about the Suns in this series before it started, but now that they've gotten through it, I'm back on that Suns bandwagon. I think they're very dangerous. We know Chris Paul is a great leader. I thought, he never felt fully 100% with that shoulder, but the way he powered through that in this series was impressive. DeAndre Ayton, you mentioned it. Obviously, Devin Booker. What a coming out series for him. Especially the last 2 games, he was magnificent. Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder has found his shot again. 18 points in last night's victory. That's the Jay Crowder we saw with Miami last year in the bubble. If they get that version of Jay Crowder, dangerous. Cameron Payne, Cameron Johnson, Torrey Craig, a good defender. This is a really good Suns team, and Monty Williams, credit to him. How about the coaching job he's done this season with this group? And we'll get to Phoenix and Denver when we talk about the second round in just a bit. But, that's going to be a good series. That is going to be a really, really fun series. I'm excited to watch it. I'm going to say one last thing, too, about the Lakers before we wrap it up on this. Frank Vogel showed you what kind of coach he is, and that's not much of one in this series, in my opinion. You basically had no plan B. For LeBron being either disenchanted, disinterested, the ankle, not playing well. You had no plan B for Anthony Davis being hurt. Where were you coaching up another lineup combination or getting some other players, a little bit more confidence and getting them ready to perform and make an impact in the playoffs? Because I didn't see anything from the supporting cast. Schroeder didn't play good until last night. Kuzma was a mess. KCP was inconsistent. What's happened to Montrezl Harrell? This guy was an impact player for the Clippers. He can barely get on the floor for this Lakers team. Vogel has not developed anybody. He's basically said, LeBron and AD are going to win games for me, and to hell with the rest of the roster. Well, guess what? LeBron stunk in this series. AD was banged up and missed half the series. And without that, he didn't get the rest of that team, the supporting cast, ready to step up, make an impact, and play at their highest level. That's on the coach. Bad job by Frank Vogel.
Agreed. Shout out to a guy like Tyronn Lue, who I've knocked in the past, but at least he's even made moves in game. I am very high on the Suns. I have them 40-1 to win the whole thing. They are currently 9-1. Pretty good price still on the Suns. A couple of comments before we get into the games here. Does Damian Lillard ever win anything in Portland? No, I don't think he does. Kyle Hauser, first time tuning in live. Love the show. Been cashing with you all week. Only show podcast I've tuned into to listen. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Very kind of you. Thanks for checking us out. Yordi Rodriguez, hockey pick for tonight. We'll do that at the end. Matthew
You got
Potter,
the right guy on the show for that. That's for sure.
Yes. LeBron asked for a sub twice with LA gaining momentum. Kobe or MJ would have passed out on the floor. Yeah, well, that's LeBron. He's old. That's where he is. All right, let's get into tonight's game. Okay, we've got one matchup, Western Conference. We get the Clippers at Dallas. Dallas looking to close this series out, up in this series, and you have a total here at 216.5. Clippers laying 3. Okay, it was 2.5. It's moved up to 3. Sharp money coming in on the Clippers, and I've got to tell you, I agree with the sharp move. I agree. I think the Clippers are to play in this game. You said to me right before we started the show today, are we going to see a Game 7 in one of these series? And I said, yeah, I do think so. This is a Maverick team that in the first couple of games was very good, right? Doncic was terrific. They were doing what they wanted to do offensively, and then something happened. Tyronn Lue decided he was going to coach a little bit, and he was going to switch some things up. Patrick Beverley has not played well. He's not played well for seemingly ever. He was removed. Zubac was removed. They went smaller. They started playing Batum more, started playing Marcus Morris more. And that's allowed them to kind of pack the paint, defend, and kind of make it difficult, make the Mavs kind of, obviously shoot threes, but, they haven't exactly excelled at doing that. This is a Clipper team that's starting to make shots. They're starting to get more out of Paul George, and the results have figured themselves out. The pick and roll was killing the Clippers with Luka Doncic, and they were exploited. They figured it out, and they moved things around, went smaller, and it's made some things happen. You look, though, at the other night, it was kind of a rough third quarter for the Clippers. I think, they gave up a 25-5 run, I think, at one point. Almost the Mavs blew it at the end, up 10 with 2 to go, and almost blew it. But all in all, it was a decent game for the Clippers. I don't think they played terribly. They just gave up a big run. Facing elimination with their backs against the wall, you have to ask yourself, are the Clippers capable of winning a series? Okay, it's been kind of tough to watch the last couple of years. They have, blew a series last year. This has been a team that have found ways to blow things. But this series has been, for the first two, very Mavericks. Second two, very Clippers. And I like the adjustments made. I think it was difficult on the Mavs. All in all, I think Clippers have been much better defensively than we give them credit for. I think with their backs against the wall, with Paul George obviously playing at a pretty high level, we have a good Kawhi. He didn't shoot the ball well in the last game. I think the moves they've made defensively have figured themselves out. I like involving Batum and Morris. Reggie Jackson's even given them something. Shout out to him. Listen, I'm going Clippers here. I think they get the job done, and I'm going to lay the 3. I think they win this game, kind of like they did in Game 3, 115, 105, something like that. I think they pull away and win by closer to 10 points, and we head on to a Game 7 on Sunday in L.A.
Yeah, we'll see. You have more confidence in the Clippers than I do in these kind of spots, because I remember the last time they faced elimination, and it was just basically a fall apart session for the LA Clippers against the Denver Nuggets, and that concerns me here, because not only you got to win a little bit of a margin. You're laying 3 on the road here in this one. Now the road team is covered and won every game in this series, so we have to keep that in mind. 5-0 straight up, 5-0 against the spread. It's been road court advantage in this series going into it. But you mentioned a good point about going small. I'm not saying I love Dallas plus the points, but I'll tell you right now, it'd be Dallas plus the points before I lay 3 with the Clippers in this game. They're going to have to show me And I know the road teams won and covered in every game in this series, but the fact that Doncic looked like he's put the neck injury behind him, I think that's safe to say. The neck is fine when you have the kind of performance he had the other night, 42 points. I got to think that some of these Dallas supporting cast shooters and players around Luka can play better. A lot of these games, especially the last game, they really relied a lot on Doncic. But I think back home, you're going to have to hope that Tim Hardaway and Josh Richardson and some of these other guys can step up, shoot the ball well for you, give a little bit more offensive support, if you will, to Luka Doncic here in this series. And look, the Clippers' endgame execution was poor down the stretch. Somehow, some way, they don't have the ball in Kawhi and Paul George's hands to the chance to tie that game late. How does it end up going to Man and Batum, of all people, with 10 seconds to go in that Game 5 loss? It's hard to fathom. You got to somehow draw up a better play or get the ball in someone else's hands. The guys that are supposed to make the big plays and hit the big shots for you. Clippers didn't do that in the last game. So I lean Dallas. The bet that I really like in this game is the total. I like it over in this game, 216. You mentioned the Clippers. They're going small. That increases the pace a little bit. And when you look at the fourth quarter, the pace died in Game 5. But I think back home, you're going to see Dallas really be able to shoot well. I think the Clippers' offense will improve. Look, Kawhi will shoot a lot better, I think, than he did in Game 5. And as you mentioned, with the lineup alterations that Ty Lue has made, going smaller, what that does is that increases the pace a little bit. And I think now we're seeing the totals continually drop. We've seen, 219, 218, 217. And now we're seeing 216. With this total, one of the lower totals in this series. And I think now's a good time at a bargain rate, if you will, with this being one of the lowest totals of the series, to maybe look up and over the total. It's the way I thought, big man, about the Suns game last night. That was the lowest total of the Suns-Lakers series, but the Lakers said we're going to try to push it a little bit. And obviously both teams, it was a very defensive-minded series, slow-paced series, but took advantage of what was the lowest total, and it went over. I think we see the same here.
Yeah, I was actually on the over the other night. It came in. I was happy with it. But, it's really been an interesting series because we've seen some high-scoring games, and we've seen some low-scoring games. And, two of the high-scoring games, one was when the Clippers didn't go small and one was when they did. Like I said, it kind of seems like a 115, 105 type of game. Probably I think one team gets into the 110s, and if that happens, this game's going to go over the number. The problem you have here, okay, and there are two issues, one for the under, one for the over. Both these teams pretty efficient, both pretty good offensively. Clippers one of the better offenses in the league. We know with Luka, that offense, they're solid, but they're so slow. I mean, these teams are ungodly slow. Like five possessions slower than they were in the regular season. 90 possessions a game. Very slow, and that's concerning. But again, when you have efficiency, sometimes it works. Any concerns about that?
Yeah, definitely. They are slow. But that's also why the total's been dropping. And we're also up 2 straight unders. This is now one of the lowest totals we've seen in this series. And I think it's a really good spot and number, in my opinion, to bucket and go the other way and end up going over the total here in this game. I want to mention one more thing, too. The reason why I lean Dallas plus the points is I know everyone's saying, the Clippers will be better. They've won every game in Dallas so far. They're going to show their mettle, that they've learned from last year's failure and be ready, with their backs against the wall this time to perform at a high level, unlike last year. Well, guess who Dallas lost to in the playoffs last year? This Clippers team. Dallas is coming into this game foaming at the mouth, chomping at the bit to send this Clippers team home. They would love nothing more than that. You've got Luka, who is the ultimate, competitor and warrior right now. That is exactly why I think Dallas truly has a puncher's chance, more than a puncher's chance, to end this series right here tonight.
You're killing me here because I'll be honest, man. I don't like this team. I've lost more money believing in that goddamn Paul George than anybody. I'm asking for some sort of, give me something. One time, Paul George. One damn time. But if you agree with Ian Cameron, which maybe you do, currently at FanDuel, there's a boost. Dallas to win and over 210 scored. Plus 275 currently.
That's a boost that's got my name written all over it. I like that.
There is a max bet on that, but If you like that bet, you like what Ian's talking about. So look, if this is 112, 100, you win. It's a winner for you. So if you like what Ian's cooking, get in on that at FanDuel currently. As far as player
Luka
props,
over points. I know you're not getting bargains there. Yeah, I'll just mention it right now. But I'm going to bet it over again. That's the one thing the Clippers have really not shown in this series, outside of that one game where Luka was hampered by the neck, is they have not shown an ability to stop him at all.
Yeah, looks like
And I
everyone's
don't
on the
know
Mavs. I'm going against it. I'm playing the Clippers. I'm going to side with the fact that I like what they're doing. They're facing their backs to the wall. They've heard all this stuff that they can't win in the playoffs. I think that the going small has helped. So we're going to be on opposite sides here. Last night I went 2-1. The one loss was a goddamn prop. Props have hurt me in the playoffs. I was very good towards the end of the year. But that Damian Lillard over 4.5 threes hurt me last night. By the way, he had 2 in the first quarter, had 3 at halftime. Didn't make 1 3 in the second half in a game they had to have. What the hell happened, Damian Lillard, last night? Minkia. Brutal. As far as tonight.
That's often what happens, Jeff, when the guy has 55 points. He's just mentally and physically drained by the second half of the next game. And I think we saw some of that on Lillard last night.
I mean, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to double down and go Paul George over points and the Clippers win? Oh, my God, I'll bang my head against the wall. I can't do it. No props
It's a
for me.
gutsy bet, that's for sure.
Though, obviously, I think Luka is probably the right decision. He just seems to have their number. So, I don't know. But I'm just kind of fixated on the Clippers tonight. I'm going to play one game, one thing here. Probably have a little bit of a play on the over, but my best bet here, Clippers minus the 3. And you're going to go Mavs plus the 3. Is that true? Or are you going to go money line?
Yeah, I'm going to go Mavs plus 3 for a small bet, but my stronger bet play is the
That's
over
right.
in this game, 216.
Okay, cool. Good stuff. That's simple. Easy enough. Ian, let's take a look at some series prices, and then we'll get on out of here. No reason to go. Keep in mind, if you think this is going 7, maybe you just want to take the Clippers plus 134 for the series. I don't know. Your call. Let's look at the other game.
That's the bet right there. If you like the Clippers tonight, is the series price, because obviously Game 7 at home. Not that home's mattered for them; they haven't won at home yet in this series. But you get my point. If you think the Clippers are winning tonight, you probably think they got a great chance to come back and win the series. So that series price at a plus number, that would be the bet I'd be making if I like the Clippers tonight.
Kenny said, "Is it just me, or is there a lot of value in the Nuggets to win the West? Seems worth the flyer, especially when they have the best player in the NBA." Yeah, I mean, they're big dogs in this series. I mean, you can get plus 172 currently on the Denver Nuggets. I just think this is where their inability to defend comes back to hurt them. This team sucks defensively. They just do. I look at in this series, obviously against Portland, you didn't exactly have to face a big. Ayton's a pretty solid player. I know they kind of had the experience against McCollum and Lillard, but Booker and Paul are probably just on could you agree they're on a different level than those two? I mean, Lillard's very good, but I'll take Booker or Paul over McCollum any day of the week. I look at kind of just the ancillary pieces that the Suns have. They're solid defensively. This team is nails on that end. They've really improved towards the playoffs. They weren't good towards the end of the year, but got Jay Crowder back. He adds a really good element defensively to what this team does. I'm not real interested in the Nuggets. I think this is where they bow out. But, again, anything goes with Jokic. But I think Michael Malone, he's just a way better coach than Stotts. He's got a little bit of time here to prepare. I think they have something for Lillard. And I'm probably going to look towards playing the Suns here. I'm thinking maybe minus 1.5 games. Maybe a 4-2, something like that. I don't think it goes 7.
I do like Phoenix in the series, but I'll admit I'm a little surprised they're north of minus 200. I thought in the minus 180 range, minus 175 they might be. Minus 200 is pretty rich for me for Phoenix, even though I like them in the series. I think this is not a pushover for them because, you've got Denver with Nikola Jokic just being amazing. He's he's a double-double, almost a triple-double machine these days. Here in the postseason, it's been excellent. But here's the big difference with Phoenix versus Portland for this Denver team. One team defends, the other didn't. Simple as that. I mean, the Phoenix Suns have been an excellent defensive team. all season, especially here in the first round. They defend, they get stops. Portland did not. And Denver's going to have to fight much harder, and Jokic is going to have to work a whole lot harder. The thing is, they're going to make Jokic more of a perimeter guy in this series. I truly believe that, because Ayton's down there. They've got some bigs in the low post. They can deal with him a little bit. Take away his around the rim offense, because you can't allow Jokic to do anything he wants everywhere on the court. And that was a damning thing for the Trailblazers in that series. Jokic could have gone anywhere on the floor and done anything he wanted offensively, whether it was a layup around the rim, whether it was a little, a step back in the mid-range, whether it was a three-point shot. Like, any shot he wanted, he could get it anytime he wanted. I don't think that's going to be the case for him against a much better Phoenix Suns defense. And that, I think, is going to be the main difference in this series. And if that's the case, can you get Monte Morris shooting lights out like he did against Portland again in this series against a better defensive team? Can Austin Rivers bring it again? Important offensive contributions. Can Michael Porter show that first round series performance on offense wasn't a mirage? And on the flip side, there's the one concern too is his defense. Worried about guys like Booker and Paul, and you got a Michael Porter now, and they're going to have him on the floor for offense, but he's still very, very questionable defensively. So I think there's still a few more matchup advantages, plus a defense that is going to be night and day from what Denver saw against Portland. So I do like Phoenix, Jeff, to win this series, but I thought the price was a little higher than I thought it would be, so I will not be betting the series price.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. As I said, I'm looking towards maybe laying the 1.5 games with Phoenix. I think they take care of this one in 6 probably. Maybe even 5. I don't know. I think they're significantly better. I think they'll have something for Jokic. But again, I mean, Phoenix had some trouble with Anthony Davis when he was healthy. So I don't always say fully because he's never fully healthy. But just kind of keep that in mind. Philadelphia and Atlanta. I'm all over the Hawks here. All over them. Joel Embiid's not coming back. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think we see him again. I just saying. And I'll tell you why. One of the papers around here, Philly Voice, did an interview with a guy called Mark Pollard. He's a doctor at Cooper University Healthcare Bone and Joint Institute. He specializes in knee and ligament and cartilage injuries. Ian, listen to this, okay? The reporter said, in layman's terms and understanding the meniscus, are there 2 approaches to addressing the problem in the event of a procedure shorthanded to repair or remove? What are the pros and cons if it's necessary to go that way? So basically, they're asking, how long is this going to be? Okay. He basically says the repair, it's a longer surgery. The recovery takes a lot longer, but long-term function is typically better with that as opposed to the meniscectomy procedure where you nibble the meniscus tissue out, which is typically a quicker surgery. Basically, in layman's terms, he's saying that the meniscus can't really heal that well because there's not a great blood supply, and that it's a fairly narrow spectrum of meniscus injuries that lends themselves to being repaired. And he's talking about 3 months. This is not ideal, man. And I think what you're hearing from Doc Rivers is that he's hopeful. Look, I'm hopeful Kim Kardashian's going to knock on my door and say, hey, Jeff, I'm single. Let's have sex or let's go out. But she's probably not going to, right? Ian, I'm hopeful that, Publishers Clearinghouse knocks on my door and says, hey, Jeff, you don't even play this, but you know what? Here's $1 million. I'm hopeful that happens. Probably not going to happen, though. So I don't think Joel's coming back. And I think if Joel doesn't come back against this Hawks team, I have some concerns. Because let me ask you something, Ian. We heard how great the Knicks were defensively. You know who destroyed them? Trae Young. Sixers, better defensively. Definitely have the length. But I've seen this team. I live here. I've watched it. They are not very good without Joel Embiid. And in a series against a team that has a lot of confidence right now, with the best player on the court, with a team that has Clint Capella, who's a really good big, John Collins, Kevin Herter, Lou Williams, all these guys, Gallinari. This is a good basketball team. And this is a Sixer group that, to me, just isn't very good without Joel Embiid. I will be all over the Atlanta Hawks, because Joel ain't coming back. I'll tell you right now.
And that's the big mystery is Joel Embiid's health. It's paramount. They will not win the East or win the championship without him. But can they beat at the Atlanta Hawks without him? I still think they could, believe it or not. I still think they could. Look, it's the fourth quarter against a Washington team that's not very good, but there were things to like with the way they put their foot down and put that series away the other night. And look, there's obviously going to need to be a lot more contributions from, when you look at it, Seth Curry has to keep playing the way he did in that closeout game against Washington. You need offense from Ben Simmons now. I know he's an elite defender, but you need offense from him now. Danny Green's got to I don't know if he can offensively because his shot goes to what at playoff time most years, but you need offense now from him. You need Tobias Harris giving you the kind of performance he gave you throughout that Washington series. That's what you need going into this series. But what I do like for Philly is, look, you talked about New York's defense getting shredded by Trae Young. The one issue with New York's defense was perimeter defense. They were good interior defense, but their one little slighter weakness was perimeter defense. And that's critical, obviously, against a guy like Trae Young. I think the Sixers have better perimeter defense. When you have Simmons, you have Thibault can defend. I think that's going to be – I think they can do a better job against Young, even without Embiid, defensively against him than the New York Knicks did, because I like their perimeter D. I really do. And I think that's going to give them a chance. Look, without Embiid, I said this earlier this week, I think with Embiid, they beat Atlanta. I think without him, I think they still beat Atlanta, but I think this is going to be a gut wrencher. This is going to be a tight, white knuckler kind of series for the Sixers. Nothing is going to come easily for them. You do have to tip your cap to Atlanta with the way not only Young played, but Bogdanovich in that series, Clint Capella down low, Gallinari finally healthy, made an impact in that series as well for the Atlanta Hawks. John Collins, what a plus series he had as well. Good defense. They've showed it enough defensively as well. This is obviously now going to be a much, much tougher series for the Sixers without Joel Embiid, assuming he doesn't come back at all. But I still think they'll get through this series. It would be Brooklyn or Milwaukee in an East final. And if we're still talking no Joel Embiid at that time, when they get ready for either a Brooklyn Nets or a Milwaukee Bucks, that's where I think the end of the road is going to hit the Sixers. I don't know, though, Jeff, even without Embiid in this series, that it'll be Atlanta that ends their year.
I do. I don't think they're very good without Embiid. It's that simple. We'll see, though. Let's get to the other one, Milwaukee-Brooklyn. Again, I think this is a little undervalued on the Bucks. I think, obviously I know the Nets are very good. We know that, but they're not very good defensively. I think that's clear. I like Drew Holiday. I think he's a major advantage for them this year, not having him as opposed to Bledsoe. Giannis and Middleton are terrific. I like their kind of pieces with Lopez and Connaughton and DiVincenzo and all those guys. Defensively, they're nails generally. I think I'll tell you what, Ian. We talked about over series with the Denver series. I think this is a good over series as well, to be honest with you.
This should be a great series. This is the series everybody's talking about for good reason. It's very evenly matched. It should be a pretty long series. I would be surprised if this series doesn't go at least 6. Probably has a good chance to go 7 when it's all said and done. This is the one underdog shot that I am taking in the second round in terms of series prices. I'm starting to buy into the Milwaukee. Maybe I shouldn't, but I'm starting to buy into the Milwaukee Bucks a bit. And I understand that was Miami, who was totally discombobulated. There's no doubt about that. But that was a dominant 4-game sweep, pretty much, by the Milwaukee Bucks. And they showed me a lot. They showed a killer instinct. They showed an ability to put their foot down and put away an inferior team. Their defense got better and better as that series went on. Drew Holiday has been a huge upgrade from Bledsoe. I've said that a million times, but I'm saying it a million times because it's such a huge difference to this team this year that they've got him at that spot instead. You mentioned DiVincenzo. You know what you're going to get from Chris Middleton. You know what you're going to get from Brook Lopez. Look at Bryn Forbes. Look at the way that guy played. You've now got legitimate three-point threat to help this team offensively. You already got Giannis to worry about inside. You already got Chris Middleton to worry about inside. If Bryn Forbes shoots the way he did against Miami here against Brooklyn, that gives them a much better chance to match the offense of what Brooklyn's going to bring. We know Harden, Durant, Irving, Joe Harris can be dangerous on his best day. Landry Shamet can chip in as well. There's a lot of weapons for Brooklyn. I'm still not sold on their defense entirely. I know what they did against Boston, but Boston packed it in, I think, by the end of that series. And there was that one game where they lost to Boston where it went off the rails for Brooklyn defensively. They got to show me that they can do it now for this series against a much tougher opponent for 7 games. I still think I would take the Bucks team defense right now over the Nets. Look, obviously, arguably, other than Giannis, next 3 best players, Durant, Harden, and Irving, essentially, are on the Brooklyn team. That is something that's significantly in favor of the Nets in this series. I get that. And the offense is going to be extremely difficult to match up against. But I like the way the Bucks have brought that toughness. They didn't have any toughness last year. They look like they're mentally tougher, physically tougher. Their defense is coming around. And I think their defense overall is still a little bit better than Brooklyn's. I think it's a long and tough series, but I'm taking a shot at that. What is it? Plus 180, I think, in some spots. Milwaukee Bucks to advance and beat Brooklyn.
I like it. I couldn't agree with you more. It's going to be a fun series. Very much looking forward to it. As always, make sure you subscribe to the show, to the channel. If you enjoy what we're doing here on it, we've got tomorrow. We've got a couple of games starting. Actually, I think we only have one. We have one game tomorrow as well. Yikes. So that'll be a pretty short show. We obviously have talked about the series tonight. We'll have a pretty short one tomorrow. But, on Sunday, we'll start looking ahead. Maybe we'll have a Game 7 to talk about and add to the Hawks-Sixers series. We'll see. We'll figure that all out over the weekend. Ian Cameron, let us know where we can find you, what you have going on.
Yeah, Twitter at Bobano. You can check me out 7 days a week on Pub Sports Radio, doing MLB and NBA shows daily on that channel, and as well the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Check that out. We're also on that show 7 days a week for the rest of the NHL season and Stanley Cup playoffs. So Pub Sports Radio, Ice Guys. Check it out. The Twitter for the Ice Guys, by the way, at the _ Ice Guys. So if you love hockey, check out that show. We're on 7 days a week.
Definitely do that. If you enjoy sports betting, you're looking for picks, breakdowns, that kind of stuff, Ian Cameron, one of the people doing that at a high level. There are people doing it, and he's doing it at a high level. Make sure you check that out. Hockey, all sorts of stuff. And follow you on Twitter, at Bobano. Good stuff as always. Before we go.
Oh, yeah, hockey pick. Someone asked about a hockey pick. Vegas first period tonight against Colorado. It's just a spot that I like in an NHL playoff series where a team's down 2-0. They're at home. They've got to come out of the gate flying early in the game. Vegas actually outplayed Colorado for the last 2 periods in Game 2. Grubauer was outstanding, and they hit a bunch of posts. They probably deserved to win that game, but they lost in overtime. I think they come out strong, T-Mobile Arena, in front of their home fans. You can get Vegas around even money, -105, -110 first period. I think I don't know if I trust them to win the game because Colorado, to me, is just the better team in this series, but I think that first period, you get all-out effort from Vegas, and I think they're worth a look in that first 20 minutes tonight.
There you go. Golden Knights, first period. If you enjoy the Mafia, you enjoy mob history, go check out my podcast, The Sit Down, where we talk about all things Mafia. We go through the history. We go through biographies, different people every week. It's a very compelling, story-like show. We go into someone every week. This week we talked about Whitey Bulger. Whitey Bulger was an Irish mobster from Boston, a fascinating story. He becomes an informant. He goes on the run for 16 years. And he's caught in his 80s. He faces a timely end as well. Check that out. We did John Gotti. We did the Goodfellas and Jimmy Burke. We did Vincent Gigante. All sorts of episodes. We got so many more coming. So go check that out on Apple, Google Pods, wherever you get your podcast. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place. Here on a Saturday. Here on Pickswise. Here on the Hoops Betting Hour. Thanks as always, Ian Cameron. Good to talk to you. We always chat with you on a Friday. Thanks for coming on, brother. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Jeff. Good luck, everybody out there watching.
Thank you, man. I'm the big man on campus. He's Ian Cameron. We'll see you Saturday here on the show. Have a great night. I'm on the Clippers. Ian on the over. Love it. Have a good night. Bye-bye.